With the Minato manga finally out, he has a lot of new statements and feats fighting against the Nine Tails, which made a lot of fans wonder about how this changes the way his power can be explained. So, I thought it would be fun to analyze the new manga and find out how strong Hokage Minato is, along with seeing the ways it recontextualizes the strength of his other forms. Getting into the actual manga, the most important part of it that everyone's freaking out about is Kurama saying that Minato is a most powerful shinobi, ranking alongside the first Hokage Hashirama. As crazy as it sounds, this means that Minato should at least be somewhat comparable to Hashirama in power, even if he's weaker. This is further backed up by the very next panel, where Kurama says that he was talking about the overall caliber of Minato as a ninja, rather than one specific skill like sealing. Some people are saying that Viz messed up the translation, and that when you look at the actual Japanese, it's only referring to the shinobi in Hashirama's generation instead of the first Hokage himself, but this isn't true at all. This misconception comes from the appearance of the Japanese word Shodai right before Hashirama's name, which means first generation. While this can make sense completely out of context, this is not how the word Shodai is used in the Naruto universe, as Hashirama is literally known as a Shodai Hokage in the data books, because that's his official title. Think of how people call Hashirama the First, or even how Naruto is called Lord 7. This is the exact same principle, it's just in Japanese instead of English. So, the translation Viz gave was correct, but maybe it's possible to debunk the statement through feats. After all, Minato and Kushina working together could only stalemate the Nine Tails, while Hashirama beat it by himself, which makes it seem like he's much stronger. However, this debunk doesn't really work either, because the place Minato fought Kurama in was Kushina's mindscape, where he's a lot weaker than normal. We know this because B was stated to be severely nerfed when he fought alongside Naruto in his mindscape, and, on top of the nerf from Kushina's mindscape, Minato should also be heavily fatigued, since he was training with his Rasengan right before this, and he had just been caught off guard and stabbed through the chest by Kushina's version 2 cloak. In the version 2 cloak, Kurama's chakra acts like a poison, and Sakura getting grazed by it was enough to heavily weaken her for hours on end, to the point where she was literally tripping over herself hours later. And the chakra that affected Minato should be poisoning him to a much greater extent, since he got hit by the full 9 Tails V2 cloak, as opposed to Sakura, who was only attacked by 4 Tails Naruto. Because of this, if anything, Minato being able to clash with Kurama's tailed beast bomb, while being nerfed by all of these factors, supports him being an absolute monster of a shinobi. The only caveat to this is that the tailed beast bomb wasn't at full power, since the small black and white chakra balls that only appear as Kurama charges it up were present when they clashed. But, even though the tailed beast bomb wasn't 100% charged up, it is the ultimate technique of the Nine Tails, so Minato scaling to it easily makes his Rasengan equal to, if not stronger than, all of Kurama's basic physical attacks. This is very impressive since Kurama's regular strikes are still extremely strong and were capable of easily destroying the wood dragon of base Hashirama despite it actively suppressing his chakra, meaning that Minato's Rasengan is even more powerful than base Hashirama's wood dragon, which further backs up the statement Kurama made from before that alluded to them being somewhat relative. Keep in mind, this is just a 16-year-old Minato who had just used the Rasengan for the first time ever earlier that day, and it took 3 years after the fight for Minato to fully master the Rasengan. So, by the time he's in his prime as the Hokage, Minato's Rasengan should be much more powerful than the one he made as a teenager. At this point, most of you are likely wondering if alive Hokage Minato is stronger than full power Hashirama, and the answer to that is probably not. Don't get me wrong, his feats on top of the statement from Kurama are really good, and I'm sure Minato could at least give base Hashirama a run for his money, especially when taking Toad Sage mode into account. But when it comes to the full power Sage Hashirama that can use the 1,000-arm Buddha statue, it's game over for Minato. The Buddha statue was so strong that it was literally able to counter dozens of tailed beast bombs from the Nine Tails that were being amped by Madara's perfect Susanoo. I'm sorry to the Minato stands out there, but while he's alive and doesn't even have access to Nine Tails chakra, Minato has nothing in his arsenal that can compete with that kind of power. And to make things worse, Minato might not even be able to seal full power Hashirama because his base form already has slightly more chakra than KCM2 Naruto. Since half of the Nine Tails is the biggest thing Minato has ever sealed, Hashirama being comparable to Naruto and Kurama put together without even using Sage mode proves that the amount of chakra he has exceeds Minato's sealing capabilities. That being said, apart from full power Hashirama, Madara, and KCM2 Sage mode Naruto, A live Hokage Minato should be able to easily stomp every pre-6 level character in the series. Even Shinobi on the level of the Jinchuriki, the 5 Kage, and the Akatsuki would get absolutely destroyed by Minato, since nobody except for the 3 characters I just mentioned would stand a chance in hell against the full Nine Tails. But even these 3 would struggle against the next version of Minato I'm going to talk about, which is his Edo Tensei form from when he was brought back during the 4th Great Shinobi War. Normally, shinobi who are revived by the Edo Tensei are somewhat weakened, but it's actually the exact opposite for Minato, since he now has half the Nine Tails at his disposal. This is due to him using the Reaper Death Seal to split the Nine Tails in 2 and become the Jinchuriki of the yin half of Kurama, right before he died. Now, to give an idea of how powerful Minato is in Biju mode, think about how he's already strong enough to rival the Nine Tails in base, and then, on top of this, Minato receives a KCM2 level power-up. Bear in mind that when Naruto first unlocked KCM2, he was able to cancel out the combined Biju bomb of 5-tailed beasts, and the 8 tails seem to solely credit Kurama for the feat. This means that the gap between Minato's base form and Biju mode is so large that it literally makes up 5 entire tailed beasts worth of chakra, which is an absolutely insane difference. Biju mode being a ridiculously massive power-up is further supported by Minato having no trouble keeping up with KCM2 Sage Mode Naruto and regularly doing combo attacks with him throughout the war. These two being relative in strength makes sense, since while Naruto using Sage Mode does significantly increase both his and Kurama's power, Minato is way stronger than Naruto in base, which makes up for the boost Naruto gets from absorbing nature energy. The reason why this is so impressive for Minato is because, as I said earlier, KCM2 Naruto was stated to have comparable chakra to base Hashirama, and, after this, not only did Naruto greatly increase the size of his chakra pool by combining Kurama's chakra with Sage Mode, he later gains perfect control over his chakra, to the point where even Sasuke becomes incredibly jealous at the rate Naruto has progressed. Considering how much Naruto has grown since Hashirama said they had similar levels of power, by the time he's at his peak right before receiving 6 power, Naruto, and by extension Minato, are both easily stronger than base Hashirama. So, for the people who think alive Minato is weaker than base Hashirama, whether or not Minato is more powerful after entering Biju mode shouldn't even be a question. This shows how crazy Minato's raw power really is, but, believe it or not, how much power he has isn't even Minato's best attribute, it's his speed. However, before I go over Minato's more specific speed feats, I do want to debunk one infamous moment a lot of people like to bring up, where it looks like he gets blatantly outsped by Tobirama. In this scene, Obito attached a truth-seeking orb that was about to explode to Minato's arm, and Tobirama's shadow clone manages to grab the orb and teleport it away before Minato could reach it. Without context, it's easy to assume that Tobirama is faster than Minato because of this, but it's important to remember that Minato was in a horrible mental state due to having just discovered that the masked man who caused the Nine Tails attack on the Leaf Village was his own student Obito. As the Hokage, Minato always put the safety of the Leaf Village above everything else, and up until the reveal of Obito, Minato thought he did a damn good job of protecting it. Due to this, Minato realizing that he could have prevented the attack on the Leaf Village if he was just fast enough to get to Kanabi Bridge before Obito was crushed, or just recognized his own student when he fought him, completely shattered Minato's view of himself and left him heavily distracted for the majority of the fight. This might seem like a stretch to some of you, but in the 4th data book, it was actually confirmed that after finding out Obito was the masked man, Minato fell into a stupor, which is defined as having greatly dulled senses, or even being in a state of near unconsciousness. Not only does this statement prove my point, it's also clarified that Minato remains in this stupor up until Naruto talks to him to cheer him up, which means that he was still nerfed when Tobirama outsped him. This interpretation is the most consistent with the rest of the series, since Tobirama himself said that base Minato has faster movement speed than him when the Hokage first rushed to the battlefield. A lot of people have the misconception that Tobirama was referring to the Flying Thunder God when he says Minato has better teleportation. However, when looking at the Japanese version of the manga, Tobirama is actually talking about the Shunshin, which is known as body flicker or teleportation in English. If you didn't know, body flicker is a jutsu used by almost every shinobi for the sole purpose of making them faster. So, Tobirama outright admitting that base Minato is better at body flicker is the final nail in the coffin for arguing that Tobirama is faster than Biju mode Minato, because it would have to mean that Minato somehow got slower after receiving half of the Nine Tails, which I think we can all agree makes no sense. Now that I've thoroughly debunked this argument people use to downplay Minato's speed, it's time to go over how fast he actually is when tapping into Kuruma's chakra. Minato has a lot of different speed feats throughout the war, but the main one I want to bring up is when the God Tree first sprouts and attacks both him and Naruto. The God Tree hits them with the exact same attack at the exact same time, yet Minato was the only one fast enough to escape. You could argue that Minato used Flying Thunder God instead of his actual speed to escape, but this is directly disproven a few pages later, where he says that he doesn't have enough chakra to use it, due to teleporting the entire Shinobi Alliance and his chakra getting drained. This means that Minato is faster than KCM2 Sage Mode Naruto, which is insane because 4 chapters later, Naruto was capable of somewhat reacting to 10 Tails Obito. Obito was still definitely faster by a decent margin, but Naruto being able to react to him at all is a godlike feat, since a weaker Obito that didn't have control over the 10 Tails was stated to be much stronger than Hashirama and horribly blitzed him. Due to this, Minato being faster than the KCM2 Sage Mode Naruto that reacted to Obito not only scales his speed over Hashirama, it also makes him the fastest non-6 level character in the entire series. And with that, the scaling for KCM Minato's power and speed is finished, leaving us with the biggest question of the entire video. Is KCM Minato stronger than alive Sage Mode Hashirama? While this is an extremely hot take, I honestly do think the answer to that is yes. Minato is a bit more powerful than Hashirama. If you disagree, that's completely fine since they are very relative, and Hashirama was considered to be the ultimate shinobi for a good chunk of the series. But the Kurama statement alone should make alive Minato a little weaker than base Hashirama at the absolute worst, so when you give him what is essentially 5-tailed beasts of chakra on top of that in the form of Biju mode, I think Minato gains the edge over Hashirama in terms of power. Admittedly, whether or not Minato would actually beat Hashirama in a fight is a lot more complicated, since you would have to factor in things like Wood Style being able to suppress the 9-tails chakra, and how well Hashirama would be able to counter Minato's Flying Thunder God, but that's honestly enough material for a whole new video, so for now, I'm gonna end it off here. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to follow my Twitter @CameronCreates, which I just made recently. Later.